Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.
And welcome back to Scar for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
In each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest has been on the show before, I think 4 years ago, promoting his movie Werewolves Within. And now we have Josh Ruben back, and he is director now of the new slasher, Hard Eyes. Welcome back to the show!
Thank you so much for having me. Good to be back.
So excited for you.
A lot's happened in 4 years, but man, I gotta, before we do talk about Hard Eyes, I gotta ask, you have I don't know how new it is, but there is a picture of you on IMDb. Do you control the pictures that get put up on IMDb? I've always been curious.
I sure do. That's fully my fault.
Hell yeah. I love it. No, I love it.
Now I'm looking. Oh, that's beautiful.
I know it looks like an AI, but it's not. No, my buddy, Jackie, who's pretty much the only photographer I work with. She's an old homie, and she was like, "Why don't we do something with these werewolf hands?" And it's funny. I had one werewolf hand from a gift basket that Ubisoft sent me years and years ago, and she brought 2 to the photo shoot, and I was like, "Yes, girl."
Oh my god,
I love it.
So
I've always been
beautiful.
curious because, like, Alexander Skarsgård has one of the best pictures on IMDb. It's him in a suit with just in his tidy whities, and I'm like, is this something that he chose? Is this something that someone chose for him?
Right. That's right. I've seen it. It's like
so
famous.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm always, whenever I see one that's not like a typical headshot, I'm always curious if that person was able to
oh hell
to
yeah,
pick that.
Hell yeah. I love the idea of like one of the most famous. I consider Alex Skarsgård to be one of the most famous actors today, or he's extremely famous, and it's just the idea that he would have contributed to that just tickles me. It's something like I bet like Pedro Pascal did.
Yeah.
Like a dude with
all right,
great sense of humor that's like killing it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, well let's talk about Hard Eyes. For someone that might not be aware of it, can you kind of let our listeners know a little bit about the film?
Sure. It is a Valentine's Day slasher about a couples killing maniac who targets 2 coworkers who are who in no way get along, who are sort of pitted to work with each other, and then are forced to survive together through the night. And maybe sparks fly, but blood definitely splatters.
There's some great scenes of gore in this, and particularly I can't remember what it's called, but the thing that spins around in the early part of the film. There's like a contraption that someone gets stuck in. There's like some there's some really gorgeous gore in this movie.
Yeah, I wanted to, you have to treat both genres with like, you have to really commit to both genres. You can't just be like, yeah, they have chemistry, and then the killer comes. You have to commit to the rom-com element of it. But I wanted to, I feel like there's been a bit of desire really from my first film for like me to floor it a little bit, like people wanting to see me like really go for it. Oh man, I wish this was more violent, or I wish you didn't pull punches, or I wish we got to see it, go a little heavier. And this was an amazing opportunity for me to do that, to go scarier, to make it my bloodiest effort yet.
Hell yeah.
And I'm stoked. People love blood. We love blood.
We do.
We sure do. What is this?
Sure do.
Is this the biggest budget you've worked with yet on a feature?
Oh, hands down.
Oh, hell yeah.
Werewolves was still under 10, and this is well over 15. So I'm just like, whoa. This doesn't really happen. The studio just like really believed in this film and really believes that it can be a franchise, and that was a bit of pressure, but I saw it. I saw it too. You know, when I pitched this, I was like, I think we could do something that feels evocative of Nancy Meyers' Jason Lives, and I think it works.
Yeah,
cool.
it does. And Mason
yeah.
Gooding, I love him, and he's so good in this.
He's a
What was it
star.
like? He really
is
is.
a star.
What was it like working? I mean, because you had Devon Sawa, Mason Gooding, Jordana Brewster. How was it like working with all these fantastic actors?
Phenomenal. They're all phenomenal. They're all just the best. They're all wonderful, wonderful people. And I also just amazingly by gorgeous serendipity, we had Michaela Watkins was on that side of the world. We were in Auckland, and when things started to get a bit tight on budget, you know, we couldn't fly an actor all the way from the States, and Michaela just happened to DM me and was like, "What are you up to? I want to do what you're doing." And I'm like, actually, we're still looking for a part. Where in the world are you right now?" And she was in Australia. So she extended her trip.
Wow.
Like just bounced over, skipped over to Auckland, worked for one day, and I got to work with Stephen King's very own Trish. And it made my day way back when.
That's so cool. Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know about like how the mask came to be. Was it always heart eyes, and was like the description of the mask always in the script? How did that come together? Because, you know, a mask is so important for a villain like this, and it's such obviously an evocative villain.
Yeah, honestly, it was always in the script. It was always in the script that it would be some sort of twisted version of the heart eyes emoji, which, you know, my shoulders went up a bit at the prospect of what that might be. I pictured like a giant emoji head, and obviously that's not something anybody wanted. So once I knew that Tony Gardner was aboard, and he's made such brilliant masks, the dude worked on Darkman, my dream, and created the mask for Freaky and Totally Killer, and he works on the Chucky series and many, many other things. He started doing these renders, he and his partner Brian Christensen, and we had so many different versions of the mask. That was, you know, we had a Pinhead-like version, we had an homage to My Bloody Valentine 1981, we had a spiky face, spiky helmet, we had gas masks, we had all kinds of different versions. We always knew that, you know, he'd have heart-shaped eyes, and it was sort of a matter of, okay, how twisted can we make this? Could we take this idea? And once Chris Landon pitched smeared old blood across his face, the kind of aging, the kind of decrepit nature of the mask, the history of the mask, that really put it over the edge. That just gave it like a chilling kind of nastiness, and it's extra scary.
Do you have one? Do you have your own hard eyes mask that you got to bring home with you?
I was gifted one at the end of the shoot. There were 5, and it burned in my house fire.
What the fuck? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So it was, honestly, it's like we lost many, many, many treasures. Like I lost thank you notes from my cast and crews, and like the big book from Werewolves Within, like the homage to the actual, that like the whole cast and crew sign. But the latest of the tragedies was, I had one of Tony Gardner's like original masks, and it perished.
Yeah, Josh, I'm so sorry. That sucks.
I enjoyed it while I had it.
Yeah.
So you brought up Darkman though, and the last time we had you on, we both of us learned about your love of Darkman, and since then, I believe you did an audio commentary on the 4K Blu-ray release, right? Shout out to my homie Jeff Rowland at Scream Factory. I don't know how I wiggled my way into that shit, but you know, they call me a super fan, and I've stunk up the internet with how much I love it. There's only so many horror heroes in this world, and I would like more of them. It's like, what do we have? Hellboy, Constantine, and Darkman. Like, we need more, and Darkman is like, it sits at the top. And I'm thrilled that they asked me. We actually recorded it twice because something was boned about my audio. And the first one, I was like, I don't care. I'll do it again. I'll watch it again and talk about it.
Oh, darn. I have to talk about it again.
Oh, darn. I have to watch it again and talk about it again. This gorgeous 4K.
Oh, hell yeah. Beautiful.
So, Josh, I am curious, when did you come in the process with the story? Because I know that Christopher Landon, Michael Kennedy, and Philip Murphy worked on the story. So where did you come into the equation with Hard Eyes?
It's kind of wild. The day was February 14th, 2024. No joke.
What? Really?
Michael had just slipped me a script. He says, I'm working on something with Chris Landon. Do you want to go in and pitch on it? I read it. I went in to get the gig, to pitch on the gig on Valentine's Day. And I brought my little like PowerPoint presentation with how I wanted the eyes to light up, and I wanted to really like homage Jason Lives with the utility belt, and I wanted the kills to be very kind of Sam Raimi-esque, like gory but fun, that I wanted to commit to the romantic element as much as the horror element and do something we haven't quite seen before, talk about music, this, that, and the other thing. And I think like within a few days I found out I got the job. I was actually on the set of a Dropout show.
Hell yeah.
Doing my comedy thing, and I was trying so hard not to share the news with the Noise Boys. And then yeah, like not but a month later, I was February, March. Yeah, I was packing my bag for New Zealand.
Wait, so you
Wow.
This was done in wait, hold on. I just realized the timeline. It's
As
been
of
less than a year.
February 14th, 2025, I will have pitched on, made, and posted the movie, and released it within 1 week shy of a year. Yeah.
What the hell? That never fucking happens. That's crazy.
It never happens.
What? That's nuts. I mean, that's amazing, but that must have been a wild experience for you. As you know, with like indie horror filmmaking, it takes a minimum 2 years to get anything out, even on like VOD. So that's incredible.
Yeah. It's wild. It's super, super wild.
Damn.
So yeah, and it's how I like to work. Everybody was like, didn't that seem like a crazy crunch? I'm like, I'm an indie dude. Like I work fast. I come from the internet comedy world. Fast. Everybody else was, I think, kind of freaking out because with these kind of studio films, you know, it's a titanic effort. There's many, many parties involved. There's marketing to back into. There's so many more people and so many more resources, and by nature of that many moving parts, it just doesn't move as quickly as something that's, you know, whatever at the level of like Scare Me or something. But I loved it. I felt right at home.
Cool.
That's so
that's
cool.
Awesome. What a cool experience.
Wow.
Like, just what a great experience. I mean, obviously it's like hard to shit and not easy at all, but like also really amazing at the same time.
Oh my God. It's like truly such a thrill. Like I got to make an original slasher with a budget, with a cast that is diverse and sweet, and with like queer creators, with a cinematographer I wanted. Like I got to hire my editor homie who just did Companion, Brett Bachman. I mean, they let me do everything I wanted to do. Brett is like killing it right now. He has Rabbit Trap at Sundance, Companion coming out in a couple days, and Hard Eyes right after it. He's the secret weapon.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah,
that's so cool. And Companion's incredible.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. And then the monkey, I'm just like, wow. I hope we don't get our asses completely whooped by all this like brilliant horror, but I'm so stoked.
And my movie just came out too. Sorry, I don't mean to plug my own shit.
What? You have a movie out too?
Yeah, it just came out on VOD last week.
Do tell. I'm watching it.
It's called Bystanders. It's a rape revenge movie, but it's like super bloody and gross.
Wait, what? I'm looking this up right now. Okay,
it's on Apple. It's on Apple TV. It's like it's gross, and a bunch of frat boys get murdered in the woods.
Wait a minute. Did you direct and write this movie?
I directed it. I didn't write it, but I directed it.
Oh my God. Okay, that's fucking rad. I love this poster. I'm gonna watch it.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, plugging my own shit just because.
Look at that, Mary Beth Andrews. Hell yeah. Oh my God,
Weird.
That's so cool. Okay,
that's my friend.
Watch listed.
Watch listed. Anywho, but yeah, it's just like it's all just like kind of like, sorry to be like cheesy, but it's just like awesome and kind of inspirational as an indie filmmaker to see how you've like grown through the industry. It's an amazing like trajectory, and it's so cool to get to see you get to work on a story like this and really do something that seems so outside of what the studios want and prove like the power of horror. Like that's just so fucking cool. That's gotta be so gratifying as an artist too, right?
It really is. I mean, you know, look, there's always going to be red tape with something that at this point. But the fact that, no one told me how to shoot it. People trusted me. Like I got to work with the actors I wanted to. I entered into this not really knowing how he would kind of enter the picture or what part he would necessarily play, but I knew I wanted to work with Devon Sawa for a long time, mainly because he would just like, he and I were sort of talking in our, chatting in our DMs on Instagram and just like kind of fanning over each other, which is surreal because I feel like I grew up with him. Yeah, it's been a total dream, and I am so ready to like pound the pavement, share it with the world.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. I do want to ask a question that is not related to Hard Eyes. What was it like being in the Creep Tapes? Because I just love the Creep Tapes. I love everything that Duplass and Patrick Brice are doing, and I loved your episode. I loved the entire show. So I wanted to hear what it was like working with Mark Duplass, because that man is so fucking scary in that show.
It's kind of, okay, so not to make a long story longer, but you do know that it was Mark Duplass that essentially kicked my ass into gear to make my first film. And
Really?
The reason how, or the way how, I mean, that maybe that's hyperbole, but his book, Like Brothers, that he had just released, I don't know, what was it, 2018, 2017?
Yeah.
I read it and it was so inspiring, and I was kind of at this point in my life where commercials were soul sucking. I didn't quite know my voice as a creative. I'd been doing branded stuff for so long. I'd been making videos about boobs and beer and video games and college humor before Dropout had not yet really become a thing. And I read his book. It was so inspiring. And I was like, I'm just going to write something, just like he says, to my own resources, to my own, that sort of exhibits my unusual talents, that stinks of me, yada, yada. And that began this whole journey. And I would just kind of like tweet at him every once in a while, and he'd, sort of like respond here and there. And then I met him at the outdoor screening, like once COVID was looking to resolve for Censor, that movie Censor. He and Patrick were both there. It was this beautiful, like magical night watching Censor, which is a phenomenal film. Prano Bailey Bond. Got to meet him. He like waved me over. My wife and I went up, talked to him. He was super sweet. So just kind of chatting with him and Patrick there. And then there was some kind of a DGA auction for charity where I bid on a Creep 2 poster during COVID. I was the only one who had bid on it. I got it for like $200. Patrick Brice personally brings it to my apartment and drops it off. This is, again, a few years ago.
What?
And we just kind of chat, and I'm like, holy shit, this is super surreal. I love Creep Tape so much, and I love your work. And then some months ago, well, actually it was a year ago, Patrick Brice texts me out of the blue and says, hey, do you want to come? Random question, dude. Do you want to come be in Creep Tapes? It's just going to be you, me, and Mark. And so, like, this was the opportunity for Mark and I to actually play together, for Patrick to direct, for me to operate the camera and act opposite him. And it was just like, you asked about the experience. It was just like making videos with your friends when you were younger. No lights, just your camera with the microphone in it, no sound person. It is just like a bunch of dudes farting around a house and coming up with shit on the fly. And it was so collaborative and so incredible. And I was constantly pinching myself. So anyway, that's all to say. It was in no way intimidating. It was just exciting as hell. And it began my year. I mean, it was January 2024. I started the year with like making this, little episode in the hills of, it was actually Altadena. And
oh my God. Wow.
With my heroes. Yeah. Yeah. So it was just, I don't know. It was a beautiful,
wow.
beautiful.
You're just having like a good time. Like the last year has been pretty, I mean, I know it's been really crazy, but
it's been, I am counting my blessings. Like I am super lucky, like all things considered. I can't believe I can call Mark a buddy. And Mark has also been, I mean, just to, one last thing about Mark Duplass, just as a human being, the dude has been asking me, he not only contributed to Lauren and Mai's GoFundMe like super generously, which he did not have to do, but he asked me to tag him in every GoFundMe for every displaced family, because I was constantly sharing these GoFundMes, and every GoFundMe I tagged him in, he would donate $1,000. So this dude is like an incredible human being, an incredible creator. He's my hero. I mean, like, he is my living hero. I've had a few, and he's like, that dude is phenomenal. And then to just like do what he's fucking done in Creep Tapes, I'm like, what are you? You're from another planet.
I know. He is though. It's like I don't understand like the way he inhabits that character is fucking
Chilling.
scary,
like,
and it's like I interviewed him and I was like, it's very hard to believe that like they're separate. It's just it's so cool and terrifying to watch. And I can only imagine when you're in the room with him and you're like, what is happening? I know we're acting, and also it feels so real.
There was very little acting I had to do. I was very intimidated and just kind of chilled and just trying to, like not fuck it up.
That's so cool. Wow. Wow, that's awesome. What a cool like 1-2 punch with the Creep Tapes and Hard Eyes for you.
Yeah, it's been an okay year, all things considered.
Oh yeah. But like I do also have a dropout question for you just briefly. What is your favorite dropout skit or show or moment you've been a part of? Because I am a dropout fanatic and I just have seen a lot, so I'm curious. I'm trying not to be like a nerd about it.
Obviously, anytime I do anything with the Noise Boys is incredible, but the episode that I did with Hannah Pilkis and Anna Garcia with just me and these like brilliant comedians was so fun. So any opportunity I have to work with comedians like I haven't worked with before, and like one of my most popular videos is like Hannah and I like talking to her dog with this like repulsive repulsive quote unquote. It was so fucking fun. I feel like I can't. I told Sam, like, I was like, I don't think I can go back. I feel like I went out on a high note, and I don't think the only time a year I ever improvise is just jumping into that show. It's not like I do shows on the weekends in LA. I just kind of like jump right in where I left off. And these guys, all these other folks are professionals. So I'm usually
so good. It's nuts.
It's fucking crazy. Like Vic Bayless, like, are you kidding me? Hannah. I also love that there's many like, women and female identifying comics that are just like decimating it.
God, and they're so weird. And like they're weird, which is what I love. Like weird women or like weird femmes that are just like, no, I'm a freak. And I'm like, thank God. I just want freaks.
Sound the fucking like they're the funniest ones. They're the funniest.
Yes!
They are all of them are fucking hysterical. So I'm just like, wow, it's intimidating. I'm just like, maybe I should stop. Maybe I'll just pop in for a little cameo, playing a weird clown every once in a while. But nope.
That's amazing.
I recently signed up for Dropout, and I know you of course from the horror stuff, and so I was watching Game Changer, and I was like, wait, I know him. That's amazing. So what a small world.
That's the thing I love. I love not being able to be pinned down. I love that community, the Dropout community, is like, whoa, wait. The seagull boy, the noise boy made a harm. Like, wait, what? I love it. I love the horror people. Like, you do a comedy thing. It's pretty rad.
That's awesome. That is like really cool to get to float between those worlds and just get to play in all those spaces.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like I said, I don't like to be pinned down. I feel like Mark honestly does the same thing. He's like, I'm gonna go do a Hulu show, then I'll do the morning show, then I'll do Creep Tapes, then I'll like do a chamber piece. With Sterling Brown, like it's just I love it.
Hell yeah! So we've talked to you before about your horror history, but we do want to know: is there any movies you've seen recently that have scared you the way that you felt like when you were a kid?
Nothing scares me quite like stuff did when I was a kid. I wasn't quite a scaredy cat per se, like David Bruckner talked about being like just. It was excruciating for him to like watch horror movies. I wasn't that type of kid. I was always approached it from a place of fascination, and there was very little that really truly freaked me out.
Okay.
But I think the last thing, honestly, that really got my heart pounding was Heretic. Like the tension in Heretic really, really got me. Like once you didn't know what was going to happen, and you didn't know what was in the basement, and you didn't know what was going to become of these two women, like I really I don't know. That one's the most recent. I thought there were moments in Smile 2 that really got under my skin.
I was surprised because I didn't really like Smile, but then Smile 2 really exceeded my expectations. It's an incredible movie, and it's got some really really unnerving imagery. I was not expecting how that imagery, like that kind of imagery in that kind of movie.
Yeah, First Omen or Kasha Stevenson. I mean, holy smokes. You know?
So good.
Yeah, just that's probably one of my favorites of the year. But yeah, I think the very, very last one was probably just Hugh Grant. Like watching him chill the room was really a pleasure.
He's so good in that. Like I was so impressed, even with the trailers. Like, oh, he's gonna be really good in this. And when I sat down to watch it, I was like, yeah, he's creepy, because I love that he can play off of the sort of, you know, the old kind of English style rom-com guy that he, you know, got a lot of his start in, and now he's like playing a little bit against type with this. And I was like, man, he's chilling.
Yeah, he's no joke. He's no joke. It was really, really exciting.
All right, Josh. So we talked about Hard Eyes and all these cool things you've been working on, but what movie have you brought today now for us to discuss?
I have brought Jaws 3D, as in dimensional. Because he is in this film. This is probably the only Jaws film in the franchise that scares the ever living shit out of me, because it's a very, very, honestly, more than number one, because it's got some imagery. It's got some, we can get into. It's just got some stuff that like just imprinted in my childhood brain, and it was quite scarring, I have to say.
All right. Oh. So for those who haven't seen Jaws 3D, 1, see it. Please. 2, read a brief synopsis from IMDb. In Jaws 3D, a giant 35-foot great white shark becomes trapped in a SeaWorld-like theme park, and it's up to the son of Chief Police Brody to rescue everyone.
That was a mouthful from IMDb, but
yeah, it was. Sorry.
Right. So take us back, Josh. How old were you when you saw this? How did you see it? Why did you see it? Why is this your second Scarred for Life pick on top of Flight of the Navigator, which we had talked about before? What about this movie terrified you more than any of the other Jaws?
I was definitely before 1992 that I saw it on VHS, which means I would have been definitely no older than 9. I was probably 6 when I saw it, so you can imagine. You look past all the schlock and you just see stuff like a floating head in a fish tank and like a giant shark pinning a beefy diver against like a gate and just worrying about the lives of the dolphins. But I probably saw it because Jaws was on repeat in my house. It was constantly played. It was constantly rented. It was my favorite. I don't know why my parents let me continually watch it, but I keep asking about it. I was obsessed with sharks. I asked for shark books, for shark toys, for a shark birthday cake. I have a shark birthday cake. I got to find it. I'll send you a picture. Jaws made me obsessed. Jaws 2 was probably the most boring one for me as a kid, because I was like, what are they just talking about? There's nothing happening. And then 3 is like when there's like all this like stuff, you know, like kid shit. Jaws 2 is like kind of great. It really, there's just stuff that stuck with me that I can get into quite a bit of the nuance, but there's something about what I recall of like the music and just some of the imagery that really got me. And even like that horrific 3D image of that, like, you know, papier mache shark floating towards the camera or whatever it was. That just, I don't know. There's just something super like uneasy about it. And you have to understand, it was in this era I was also consuming like so much Freddy's Nightmares, as in the Freddy Krueger TV show.
The TV show.
And anything I could possibly get my hands on, freaky-wise.
Okay, I have to, quick side note, because you brought up Freddy's Nightmares. When I was a kid, I was so desperate to watch that show, and I don't know why I had it in my head that show was going to be playing on at like midnight or something, and I was like, it's going to be on television, I got to stay up and watch it. Maybe my parents told me it was going to be at midnight, so I wouldn't watch it. I don't know. But I remember wanting to watch it and trying to stay up late so I could sneak downstairs to watch it. And I fell asleep. And apparently I started sleepwalking down the stairs to go turn on the TV. And my parents found me halfway down the stairs saying that I was going to go watch Freddy's Nightmares.
Oh my God, it's like sleepwalking. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But okay, so you were very young when you saw Jaws 3. And you mentioned some of the images. What in particular? Like I know that the slow moving shark, but there's some. I mean, as a kid, there was definitely some gnarly moments of gore in this. Was it that kind of got you, or what was it? Do you remember?
The one that continually haunts me, and it was a combination of the music. Like I don't even think I could watch it again. There's just something that like gets me in like my gut. There was a diver who I think was going to fix the broken gate or close the gate underwater. There was like the bridge from the ocean or from the bay into SeaWorld, like as if that's like a thing. And it was busted, and so it was like this maintenance diver was gonna go like at dusk, was going to go underwater, fix this gate, and there's something about the image of that megalodon head like pressing him against the gate underwater, so it's like suffocation and the blood and the way that shark looked in 3D. It was like the most twisted, arguably, version. I mean, I know in part 2 his face got blown off by a flare gun, which is pretty rad. That was part 2, right? Or was that 3?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was 2.
2 had, I mean, brilliant moments, and I do think heightened the franchise nicely, but it didn't get me as much as this one. But honestly, I think that, and like I think that was it was that, and it was like worrying. There were like 2 like good dolphins. I was just like worried that those dolphins were gonna get
Sandy and Cindy
like decimated. Yeah, Sandy and oh my god. So I think I don't know. There was just something about that, and like that, you know, that guy's head underwater, like those limbs that kind of floated down, freaked everybody out. The idea of being, we'd go to aquariums all the time. I mean, I had gone to SeaWorld when I was younger before I knew it was a horrific place, and I loved aquariums. And so I think you could kind of see yourself in that environment, and that's what really got under my skin.
When I was a kid, I had a similar situation where I loved the Jaws movies, and there was a time where like my parents let me watch any PG movie, but like there was a time when our movies were gone, and all the Jaws movies were all PG, except maybe I think Revenge came out at the time when they could do a PG-13 rating. But my parents were like, you've seen Jaws, so you can see all the rest of them. And so I was a voracious watcher of all things Jaws. I agree. I am not a fan. As a kid, I was not a fan of 2 since then. And I'm like realizing it's like basically a slasher movie. I really like Jaws 2, but as a kid, that one was boring to me. I loved the first one, but I loved 3 and I loved 4. I have a soft spot in my heart for the
you love the Revenge. You love the
I love Revenge. I don't care. Love it.
Wow.
Yeah, I as a kid, it was, I think you got to see the shark more in these 2 movies.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, I want to see the shark. I wasn't like, what is the suspense that we're not showing the shark? I want to see the shark. And so
yeah, it's very like broad daylight shit. Like that thing just rocketing into the banana boat. It's like, damn, I don't care how bad it looks. You don't care back then. You're just like, that's scaly fish.
Yeah.
I love this fucking movie. I love this movie, and I love Revenge because my mom was like not a big horror person, but there were some movies she loved to watch, and so I don't know why, but like one day we did a double feature of Jaws 3D and Jaws the Revenge, and it was like, so I think they're the same movie all the time. Like I was watching Jaws 3D and I was like, where's Michael Caine? Not the same movie, but I absolutely adore these. Like, yes, I know they're terrible, but like they did scare me as a kid. Like Jaws was the OG movie that terrified me as a kid, but this one especially, because I had like a weird fear of being underwater and things shattering on me, particularly like such a weirdly irrational fear, and this was like the manifestation of my irrational fear. So it definitely freaked me out as a child. Like it definitely helped that the shark was not the most terrifying thing, but I remember watching it and actually being quite terrified, because it was such a specific fear of mine that was on the screen several times, and I was like, this is not okay. I don't like this at all. It's terrifying, and I don't care if the shark looks cheesy as hell. I am terrified of this happening to me. And I loved going to the aquarium, and like the Baltimore Aquarium where I live, you go underground and there's like this, you're in a big tank with all the sharks all around you. And like, they're not big. They're not anything crazy, but there's always will always be a small fear because of this movie that a shark will break the glass.
Baltimore Aquarium. I grew up in Potomac, Maryland. I bet the Baltimore Aquarium was the one that I went to before knowing what SeaWorld was, that like got under my skin, freaked me out, and made me think like, holy shit, this could happen to me in real life. That's wild.
Oh,
maybe that's
Wait,
like part of
you grew up in Potomac?
I grew up in fucking Potomac until I was like 7.
Oh yeah, I live in Silver Spring.
Wow, yeah,
Like
Montgomery
down the road.
Mall.
Yep.
Yes.
Montgomery Mall, baby.
Montgomery Mall. Chef with the egg beater bicycle.
That is no longer there, unfortunately.
Bummer, it's not worth talking about.
See, and I grew up when I saw this, I was in Alaska. I grew up in Alaska, and I remember seeing this, and I was obsessed with sharks. Like Jaws made me want to be a marine biologist when I was a kid. Luckily, I never pursued that because I get deeply seasick, it turns out. So probably not the best job for me, but I really wanted to be Hooper in Jaws. And I was obsessed with sharks. I was obsessed with all of the underwater stuff. And I think this movie instilled in me, one of the things I love are films or stories set underwater, set in like underwater labs, or things where, basically like the underwater parts of SeaWorld in this. And I think that this is the movie that first like instilled that in me. Is like, I thought this was a real place, first of all, because I knew SeaWorld was real. And I was like, I thought that this was like a real thing. And I was so adamant that I wanted to go to SeaWorld to see it. When I found out that this wasn't a real thing, I was so despondent, because I wanted to go there. It seemed so cool.
I was broken. I wanted to see Dennis Quaid be a SeaWorld cop.
Ocean cop,
Yes.
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, ocean cop. I dive, but I'm also an ocean cop. Isn't Leah Thompson the love interest? As in like Dennis the Menace's mom, Zoe Deutsch's mom?
She's one of them. She is the younger brother's kind of love interest that shows up, because it's Mike, which is Dennis Quaid, and then his younger brother Sean, who is terrified of the water, of course, and he sort of has a meet cute with Leah Thompson's character, and they have like a little bit of a fling.
And Sean is the one. Oh, is it the same actor that gets his arm bitten off and ultimately dies in the beginning of Jaws: The Revenge, which is, by the way, the best opening of a Jaws movie ever? It's fucking Christmas.
It's so good. I haven't seen Jaws: The Revenge in a very long time. Was it Sean in Jaws: The Revenge?
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and guess that it is. I'm just gonna assume they just nailed the
Sean
mythology.
Yeah, Sean is the one. Yep, you did nail it.
Arm bitten off. I will never forget the texture of that red and yellow rain slicker, red with blood, in his boat. He's like trying to get like a log out from whatever, under a buoy or whatever. Mm-hmm. And of course the shark commits revenge on Sean Brody. Yeah, wow. And they like repurpose the footage of him and Roy Scheider. Anyway, not to take attention away from 3D, but like, yeah, truly one of the franchise ever. Like Christmas music, what? And a great tracking shot. Anyway,
I love these movies. Damn.
What is so funny to me though about Jaws 3D is the way it opens, because we have two iconic openings already. We have of course Jaws' iconic opening with the woman swimming at night, and then Jaws 2, it's the photographers snapping photos of the orca that's crashed, and they get eaten there. Here, the first kill is a poor grouper.
He's like a tiny, tiny fish.
Yeah, that is bitten in half and then it just sort of floats there in 3D.
You don't see anything. Wow.
No, I'm just like, it just cracks me up that we've gone from iconic opening to great underwater like callback to the first one to a grouper getting bitten in half.
Wow, you could have done so much, guys. You could have capsized the party boat. You could have done so much.
Oh man,
the scene I always remember though is the one that when they're doing the water skiing, because that was crazy to like. One, watching it now and thinking about now that I like think about filmmaking, what the hell must have that been like to film all of that like on boats and water skiing? I mean, I know there's ways to do it, but I feel like it's just like it feels like such a complex moment in a movie that is not great. But I love that it has this pretty incredible set piece. Like
impressive. It's impressive.
Really impressive.
Super impressive. I would love to know. I still don't know today how they operated these giant foam things underwater. I'm baffled. I would love to know. I'm sure it's like a titanic operation, but that sequence in particular, it's super impressive. I mean, these are not small like bath toys. These are like real giant, giant objects. It's like, yeah, and you have the elements working against you. Yeah, no idea. Maybe they hired a real sag shark, like what's his name, like Bart the Bear. You know what I mean? Like a Bart the Bear shark. Like what was that shark's life like? That'd be a fun documentary.
Oh my god, that would be so fun. Oh, wow.
It would be.
Blocking that. But yeah, it's just like, it's always just so impressive to see a scene like that with like, oh yeah, no, they're actually all on boats and doing these, like, they are water skiers doing moves while there's also a shark. And I just like, as a director, I'm like, that just seems like too many things could go wrong at once. And I can't believe that all just came together in something quite impressive with Dennis Quaid screaming in the background. It's just, it's a lot happening and it's very impressive. Especially for what this movie is.
It truly is. It truly is. I'm telling you, honestly, this conversation is actually making me want to go revisit it. Normally you would have to do that if you knew you were going to do a show where Jaws 3D was, or where your film was the subject. But I was too nervous, and now I'm like, you know what? I think I at least need to see the water ski sequence again.
You at least have to. And there's a clip on YouTube if you just want to watch that sequence from
Maybe
YouTube
that's
too.
what I can get away with. I can't watch that poor maintenance diver get pinned against that wall by a megalodon. I can't do it again.
I think the production history of this movie is also fascinating because it was originally pitched as a spoof called Jaws 3 People Zero.
Yes. Was Joe Dante going to do it, or am I just conflating Piranha lore?
They briefly pursued him as a director. The National Lampoon's Zanuck and Brown were going to serve as executive producers. They hired a National Lampoon writer to write the script. The project was shut down by Steven Spielberg because he convinced Universal to not make it because he threatened he would never work with the studio again. And so, but like that was like what the original, what we almost got was Jaws 3 People Zero.
Wait a minute. Do I need to go to Universal and pitch that we do Jaws 3 People Zero? Like we do an airplane like Jaws? But like I've never seen that. That's something I would seriously. Wow. Now I'm not talking about Piranha 3D with like was it Ving Rhames? I'm not, I'm talking like a real like airplane humor, but a little bit of shark gore. Wow, maybe we should try to do that, guys.
I think we should. I think that'd be very fun.
I definitely would be down. I would love to see that.
Because Jaws 3 People Zero is actually the most incredible title I've ever heard.
Make it the way that the Lampoons intended. That'd be kind of fun.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
They apparently also then searched after an experimental filmmaker. I'm not familiar with him, but Murray Lerner. I'm not exactly sure what he had done before, but they were looking for him. And when he found out that when we read the first script for Jaws 3D, he says, I can't really get involved with this. And production had already started with an art director. And so he declined to be involved in the film. And so they hired Joe Alves, who was the production designer for the first two films. This is his only directorial effort. But what I also find fascinating is Richard Matheson wrote the story idea initially.
Wait, what?
What sharks? Huh?
Yep. So Richard Matheson had wrote the script for Steven Spielberg's Duel, and he wrote a very quote unquote interesting outline. Universal started to started to force him to add things, like they wanted to include Brody's two sons, which he thought was dumb. They wanted it to be the same shark that was electrocuted in Jaws 2 for some reason. And then they also asked him to write a role specifically for Mickey Rooney. But it turned out he was not available, so the whole point was pointless. And he has a quote about the finished film that he's even though his name is attached to it, he's not very happy with it. His quote is that I'm a good storyteller and I wrote a good outline and a good script. And if they had done it right and had been directed by somebody who knew how to direct,
Whoa, ouchie, Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, I think it would have been an excellent movie. Jaws 3D was the only thing Joe Alves ever directed. The man is very skilled production designer. but he was slamming his directorial. He said the reason why I bring this up, he said the 3D made the film look murky. It had no effect whatsoever. It was a waste of time. I actually will agree with you, Josh. I do think the murkiness in this actually worked. That scene that you were talking about with the guy that was underwater and trying to fix the gate. It is very murky, but I think it adds sort of like to the suspense because it's not crystal clear waters. You really can't see what's going on.
100%. It's like brackish. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so freaky. Yep.
Yeah. But man, the story behind it is just, I find it just as fascinating as the movie that we got.
Crazy.
I'm a terrible reader, but I would read a making of Jaws 3 book right now. Like I would read it. I would read it cover to cover. I know Soderbergh is working on a Jaws book, or a book about directing through the lens of the film log of making Jaws, but I'm more interested in knowing about like what it was like every day. Like, was Dennis doing coke? Like,
wait,
what,
hold on.
was...
I have an answer for you actually, because Dennis Quaid stated in a 2015 interview, he made the most aggressive use of cocaine during the filming of Jaws 3D, and he was high in every frame of the film.
Yes, I think that's why I'm bringing it up. Like, he was like, not proudly, but he was absolutely like blatantly like, oh yeah, no, I was high during the whole thing. Like, I was just coking it up, and I was just, you watch it again, you're like, damn, he does look great. But he's moving with a clip, that Quaid.
Yeah,
that actually, I wish I knew that before watching the movie, because I was watching. It's like there's something going on here that I don't understand, and that this would explain it.
He's just doing that $1 million like Quaid grin, like a little too much. I'm like, dude, wait, what is it?
Just a little less coke, my man. Good Lord, Jesus! Don't make it so obvious. Good God.
I know you're in a good time, but
the other thing that I remember, the image, I hadn't watched this since I was a kid, probably, because this is not one that I go return to. I've seen Jaws 2 a lot. I have very fond memories of Jaws: The Revenge as a kid, and I don't really want to ruin that memory because I know that it's not great. Mm-hmm. That one also has a wild story behind it, where the initial novel, it had voodoo involved, and it was like a spirit shard. Weird stuff with that movie. Yeah, Jaws: The Revenge initially, and I believe the book, the novelization, talks more about it. There's a voodoo curse that invokes the shark, and that is what is causing all the havoc. Just the production and stories behind these movies are just so fascinating to me. But the image of this one that has stuck in my head since I was a kid was there's two parts. One, it was when they finally find Shelby, the electric worker that was dead, and they've been looking for his body, and the people are in the underwater tunnels, and his body sort of floats up, and that's like the indicator that, oh, yep, we got the wrong shark, that there's a bigger shark in here. That's the one scene that I remember from a kid, and then the other one is the finale, in which the shark is slowly moving towards the main console that everyone is huddled in, and the glass shatters in spectacular 3D fashion, and they end up pulling the grenade in its mouth and causing it to explode. Those are like, that is all I remember from this movie. From when I
they're so
Louis
bad.
Gossett Jr., right? Didn't he save the day? Hell
he was in it. Yeah, he was at the very end.
That's a stacked cast, I gotta say. And that like wasn't like a I want to say he was French, but that diver who was like gonna be the hotshot like shark killer who just like immediately got killed.
Philip Fitzroyce, Simon, played by Simon McCorkindale.
He looked like a guy who would be in Alan Rickman, in like Hans Gruber's like terrorist troop.
Yes.
Aryan. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, wow. I do have to say, it's not related to 3D, but it's Revenge, because I love that movie. I don't care, because also my favorite quote from this movie is from Michael Caine, saying that he's never seen Jaws 4, but he's seen the house that bought his mother, and it's marvelous.
Classic.
Oh, it's just such a good, I just love it. I love it so much. I love it. Mwah, chef's kiss.
I'm just saying that when Hard Eyes 4 comes out, they're going to be like, wow, he had to go to space. And I was like, did I have to get that new couch?
I wanted the pool. Leave me alone.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, that said, I would love to see Hard Eyes in space. I think more horror movies need to start going back to space.
I would love it to go. I would direct, if it becomes the next Saw, I would do as many as I would do like 19 of them, and just get lazier and more filthy with each one. and just make horrible, but by nature of my laziness, it just gets better. Like there's just ends up being, but it's also just like, yeah, it's just like better but schlocky, like gratuitous sex and stupid effect. Like I want it to get worse. I want it to get
Hell
by
yeah.
like part 12. I want there to be like, wait, like what? Like voodoo hard eyes? It feels problematic. Like there's like baby hard eyes. There's like a kid who's born with heart shaped eyes. Like,
oh my god,
you know what I mean? It's just like moving into Halloween 6 fucking territory. That's what I want.
Hell yeah, that'd just be the
I
second
want
one.
that too.
Go from 1 to 6, but it's just 1 to 2, and you're like, what? Like we're just gonna fuck it up.
Wow, they jumped the shark immediately, like a heart-shaped shark or a heart-eyed shark. It's just awful. It's like, wait, what? Why do they keep greenlighting it? I don't know.
Oh man, I would watch it. I would.
Yeah,
I would.
same.
I would watch it.
I would love to see this actually. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, hard eyes versus Sharktopus. Obviously, it's super important.
Beautiful. I'm down for that. Give me all of those sci-fi level sequels.
Oh my god!
Yes,
please. I can get the 12. That's the 12 DVD set at Walmart later for like $10, and it's a
oh my god! Oh my god!
Treasured objects. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we wrap? Oh, yep. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I do want to say that I would love to see this in actually in 3D, because I was trying to remember, because there's a couple movies that I saw that my parents had rented as a kid, and they had rented the 3D copy on accident. I remember sitting up and watching some of them, and I was wondering if this is one of them, but it's not. Apparently, the kind of 3D that they used would not work on television without a special electronic hardware, apparently, on the viewer's end. And so, like, most of the release, the direct to VHS releases or the VHS releases were done using just the left eye image. And so I'm like, I would love to have seen this actually in 3D, and I'm curious if some of the kind of complaints that I have now as an adult watching this with the very lackadaisical shark that does not seem it seems very uninterested in actually eating people for the most part. I'm wondering if like some of those images would hit more on 3D.
Yeah, dude, it's like what made Friday 13th Part 3 so fun was like seeing like Alamo just did a 3D. I was like, I remember this not being like the most amazing Friday 13th movie when I was younger, but watching it in proper 3D, it just obviously elevates the whole thing. Even when they went back and did that with Jaws 1, I thought that was so special to be able to experience that in the theater. Yeah,
I haven't seen the 3D of Jaws 1 either.
They need to do it with Part 3.
They do, please.
I would love that. That would be so fun.
Yeah, it would be.
So, do we want to wrap this up and give this our rating out of 5?
That sounds good to me.
All right, Terry, you are up first. How many slow-moving sharks out of 5 do you give Jaws 3?
I mean, it's hard. Like, as a kid, this was a 5-star movie as a kid for me. This one and The Revenge, I return to all the time just because they were quicker. You got to see more of the shark. So like, my young brain could, like, as much as I love the first Jaws, was like, it's also 2 hours and there's long stretches where you don't even get to see the shark. When you do, incredibly effective. But here it's like shark. Does it look good? As a kid, I didn't really care. I was like, this is it. This is great. And so I did love this movie a whole lot. And I will say there is one image on here as an adult that really kind of shocked me. There's a scene where Mike and Kathy are trying to weld the tunnels to save the people that are trapped inside, and there's a shot of them because they realize the 35-foot shark is free, and it's a shot where they're framed in the front and there's this giant shark behind them, and it's actually, even as an adult, it is really a fantastically composed shot that I was like, oh, that is actually quite freaky. There are moments in here that I'm like, there's some greatness in this, but then there's also a shark that, again, does not seem interested in actually attacking people when they're trying to lure it into this pipe, and it's just sort of like, moseying on in. I'm just like, this is silly. But there are moments that I'm probably going to be thinking about even as an adult now. So I don't know. I looked on Letterboxd and I added it, and I'd given it a 2. But I hadn't seen it in many years. I'm going to give it a 3. I'm going to say it's going to be 3 slow moving sharks for me, just because I have so much love for it from a kid. And so there's a lot of nostalgia there for me. What about you, Mary Beth?
I'm giving it 3.5. I don't care. It's mostly due to nostalgia and vibes. It's just like a fun watch for me, and if it entertains me, and even though it's ridiculous, I'm not bored watching it. So I think it gets a lot of flack, and I know it kind of looks silly, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is. I think there's some really cool set pieces, and again, like, yeah, the shark looks not at all like a scary shark, but again, it feeds into a really weirdly irrational fear I had as a child in a way that I didn't really think about until I rewatched, and I just have a lot of fun with it. So it's 3.5 for me. And then Josh, you have the final word. How many slow-moving sharks do you give?
I mean, I was going to be like, it's a 1 as an adult. It was a 5 when I was younger, so it's a 2.5. I think I'm going to go for 3 because it's an impressive new location. It's kind of a stacked cast, good gore, and images I'm still thinking about. Images still freak me out. And you're right, Terry, you brought up that. I remember that now. I'm unlocking it in my mind. I'm like, oh my God, a foreground, the two of them with him in the background. Like, ugh. There's some nasty vibes. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Josh, for coming back and talking about Jaws 3D and your latest movie. I know you're on socials, so where can our listeners find you? And the floor is yours to plug away.
Oh, it's just at Josh Ruben pretty much everywhere, which is really only Blue Sky and Instagram. I'm not really much of a Twitter RIP boy anymore, but but yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. Hard Eyes is out on February 7th. Everyone, please see it. Have a great time with the movies. Valentine's Day is coming up, and of course, it's a Valentine's Day slasher, so check it out. Listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What did you think of Jaws 3D? Are you also a defender of this incredibly ridiculous aquatic horror film? Let us know by sending us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on social media. I am kind of on Twitter, not really, and on Blue Sky at MB and then I'm on Instagram, at least for now, at mb.mcandrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful everywhere, but mostly on Blue Sky.
And of course, you can follow the podcast on Blue Sky at Scarred Podcast. We're just going to say that for right now.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone so much for listening. Please stay safe out there, and most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.